Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the AEW Dynamite review. And Dynamite tonight was from the Daily's Place in Jacksonville, Florida, as usual. And we are on the build towards Fyter Fest, which is happening on July 1st and the 8th, July 8th. So those 2 weeks are going to be awesome with Fyter Fest. 2 weeks with Dynamite, because Fyter Fest is going to be taking place, of course, on those 2 weeks. So it's another one of those special Dynamite episodes like they did, in January with Bash at the Beach. But Dynamite tonight, I thought it was a good show, in my opinion. It was a very enjoyable show. And, they are just, delivering good show after good show after good show. They're keeping up the pace and, having their fans, really enjoy the show every week. But tonight, we end up seeing the in-ring debut of FTR. Dax, Harwood, and Cash Wheeler. They end up taking on the Butcher and the Blade. And we also saw the Best Friends, Chucky T and Trent, and Orange Cassidy versus the Inner Circle. So yeah, Santana, Ortiz, and Hager. It was a 6-man tag. And we saw Sammy Guevara in action. He ended up taking on Colt Cabana. And in the main event, the TNT Championship was on the line. And the TNT Champion, Cody, ended up taking on one half of Private Party, MARQ QUEN. So that was the main event. All in all, Dynamite tonight, like I said, was a good show, in my opinion. So let's get started with the Dynamite review. So Dynamite opened up tonight with the in-ring debut of FTR. So they ended up taking on the Butcher and the Blade. And before the match got underway, you had Jericho make his way out. Jericho came out and he was on commentary. He joined Jim Ross, Tony Shivani, and Excalibur. And it was great hearing Jericho back on commentary. Really enjoyed those weeks when he was on commentary, when they were at this undisclosed location before they made their way back to Daily's Place. But, we had Jericho on commentary, like I said, and then the match got underway, which this was a very good match between FTR and the Butcher and the Blade. This was a good first match for FTR in AEW. Them making their debut 2 weeks ago. And this match came to be because of what we saw last week, where the Butcher and the Blade ended up disrupting FTR's interview with Tony Schiavone. And when the match started, we had FTR. They ended up coming out in the truck that they came out to 2 weeks ago when they made their debut. And when the match started, we had Harwood and the Blade started off. We had Harwood getting back into the corner by the Blade. And it cut to the crowd, and we saw like Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Jake Roberts, Lance Archer, Shawn Spears. They were looking and watching the match. Harwood ended up doing a side headlock takedown on the Blade. And you had the Butcher getting into the match. Wheeler and Butcher end up going at it. Wheeler ends up delivering a drop kick to the Butcher. And the referee was distracted because the Butcher ended up recovering and throws Wheeler in the corner. And at the end of the match, you had FTR win the match. They ended up hitting the Goodnight Express, which was formerly known when they were in WWE. Their finisher, of course, was called the Shatter Machine. So because Shatter Machine, of course, is copyrighted by WWE, they ended up changing the name to the Goodnight Express. So they end up hitting the Goodnight Express on the Butcher, and they end up hitting a pile driver on the Blade. And so there you go. FTR end up winning the match in their in-ring debut on Dynamite. And this was, a good match, a good debut for FTR. So you had post-match, Tony Schiavone ends up interviewing FTR, and Dax ended up, going to talk, and the Young Bucks ended up making their way out. Matt and Nick made their way out. Nick ended up saying that the match was great, and Matt ended up saying that he just wanted to thank Dax and Cash. He wanted to thank them for getting out of a jam 2 weeks ago. And so Matt also ended up saying that the two failed to properly introduce themselves. He went, "My name's Matt. This is my brother Nick." And he ended up saying that we've been carrying tag team wrestling for the past decade. And he ended up saying that we're the best tag team in AEW. So both Matt and Nick ended up putting their hands out. So I guess FTR could shake their hands. But the Butcher ends up attacking them from behind. Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc end up coming into the ring. And then you had Hangman Adam Page and Kenny Omega, the AEW World Tag Team Champions, came out. So pretty much that was basically what happened, though. Overall, this was really good, and a lot of people want to see FTR versus the Young Bucks. For a while, this is a future dream match that everyone wants to see. I even want to see it also. I think that would be, of course, match of the year if it ever happened. But there you go. Overall, good in-ring debut for FTR. So then, after that, we saw Dasha. She was backstage along with QT Marshall, who was with Allie. Of course, Allie has been broken away from the Butcher and the Blade, so she's not the Bunny anymore. So she was just broken away from the Butcher and the Blade, just like that. So we had Brandy Rhodes, and she was wondering why she's wearing that jacket. Why Dasha's wearing that jacket. And then we had Dustin Rhodes ends up telling QT that he needs his partner's head in the game because he has a shot at the AEW World Tag Team titles next week. Or they have a shot. basically that was that. I think got my notes all mixed up here. I think uh, Brandy was wondering why Allie was wearing the jacket. So it was a little interview with them. And then you had a women's tag team match. Nyla Rose and Penelope Ford versus Kris Statlander and Hikaru Shida. And surprisingly, this was a decent women's match. Wasn't a bad match by any means. So when the match started, we had Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose attack Statlander and Hikaru Shida. Nyla Rose ended up mistakenly spearing Penelope Ford because they were going for Kris Statlander. Statlander ended up dropping Nyla Rose, ended up covering her, and Nyla Rose ended up kicking out at 2. Hikaru Shida ended up coming in, delivering a running forearm to Nyla Rose. She ended up tagging back in Kris Statlander, of course, the alien Kris Statlander. So Kris Statlander ends up delivering a European uppercut. Shida came back in with the running knee. And Nyla Rose ended up delivering a big lariat to Kris Statlander, who came back into the ring. And at the end of the match, you had Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose win the match, where you had Kip Sabian get involved. Kip Sabian ended up grabbing Hikaru Shida's foot. Kris Statlander ended up delivering a suicide dive to Kip Sabian, and the referee got distracted because of all this happening. And so that led Nyla Rose to throw the title over to Penelope Ford. She ends up whacking Hikaru Shida in the head with the title, and she then delivers a Northern Lights suplex. So there you go. Penelope Ford and Nyla Rose end up winning the match. Overall, decent match, decent women's match. Wasn't bad. Really enjoyed it. And then we had Darby Allin. And I really enjoyed this whole little promo from Darby Allin, where, of course, it was shot in black and white. Love the style, what they do with Darby Allin's, promos or segments. So Darby Allin ended up saying that he's not medically cleared to wrestle. But he ended up saying that he doesn't care. And so we see the camera pans over to one of the great skateboarders. And that is Tony Hawk. So Tony Hawk was there with Darby Allin. It was really awesome to see Tony Hawk there. So Tony Hawk ended up telling Darby Allin that he doesn't need one to skate here. So Darby Allin was shown getting up on a ladder, and he jumps off of it, and he's riding the skateboard, and he was trying over and over to make a good, clean landing, and he finally got that landing where he just jumped off the ladder with the skateboard, rode down, and he ends up giving a high five to Tony Hawk. So it was short though, but really love this. Having Darby Allin and one of the best skateboarders out there, Tony Hawk. It was greatness. It was greatness with the both of them there. Just it was an absolute surprise to see Tony Hawk. But really enjoyed it. And so then we had Britt Baker. Britt Baker was kind of promo. We saw clips of her from the past few weeks. Of course, Britt Baker is injured in a wheelchair. Remember last week we saw her in the back of a Rolls Royce. So Britt Baker ended up talking about being a role model for the fans. And she ended up saying that she needs respect from the fans. So Britt Baker ended up mentioning Big Swole. She ended up saying that she doesn't know what Big Swole's deal is. Britt Baker ended up saying that she's gone through struggles of her own. And she ended up mentioning having an unexpected microbiology test that she didn't study for. So there was clips of her working out while she was in her wheelchair, and that was basically that. Britt Baker still trying to keep up, still trying to work out while she's injured, and in the wheelchair. We had that. And then we had a 6-man tag. Jake Hager, Santana, Ortiz, the Inner Circle, minus Jericho and Guevara, because Guevara had a match with Colt Cabana. He was taking on Colt Cabana. So it was them versus the Best Friends, Chucky T and Trent and Orange Cassidy. And this was a decent 6-man. Sorry about that, but I was saying the 6-man tag between the Inner Circle and the Best Friends. It was a decent match. And when the match got underway, you had the Inner Circle jump on the Best Friends and started beating Chucky T and Trent and Orange Cassidy up. Trent was able to get some offense on Santana. Santana ended up delivering a kick to the face to Trent. And Trent ended up delivering a suplex to Santana. Chucky T comes in, and Trent lays a suicide dive on Hager. Chucky T ended up delivering a flip over the top rope. And Trent ended up delivering a spear on Ortiz. We had the Best Friends end up going for a hug. Hager ended up breaking it up. You had Hager end up doing the Vader Bomb on Taylor. He went for the cover, kicked out at 2. Chucky T ended up kicking out at 2. Trent ended up coming back in, ended up hitting a swinging DDT on Ortiz. So Orange Cassidy ended up wanting to go in and ends up tagging in to go against Hager. So Orange Cassidy ended up trying to go take on Hager. Cassidy ended up doing some kicks. He tried to put his hands in his pockets, of course. Hager ends up tossing Orange Cassidy across the ring. He rolls through and he ducks under Hager. And Hager ended up going out to the floor. Orange Cassidy ended up doing a double Hurricanrana on Santana and Ortiz, which was awesome. He then ended up doing a suicide dive out to Jake Hager. And he ended up hitting a top rope splash on Ortiz and a tornado DDT on Santana, which was awesome. And Orange Cassidy ended up trying to jump down on Hager. Hager ended up catching him, ended up dropping Orange Cassidy, went for the cover. Chuck T and Trent end up breaking it up. Hager ended up dumping Trent out to the floor. And you had Santana. He ended up leaping off Ortiz's back for a cannonball. And at the end of the match, Orange Cassidy ended up pinning Ortiz. There you go. The Best Friends and Orange Cassidy win the match. And, with Jericho on commentary, he was going crazy because his guys ended up losing. So Jericho was pissed off about that. And post-match, Jericho got up from commentary. He ran down to the ring. And he ended up smacking Chucky T, Trent, and Orange Cassidy with Floyd, his baseball bat. And Jericho then ended up grabbing a pound bag of blood oranges. So inside the bag, of course, was oranges. And Orange Cassidy was shown bleeding from getting hit by Jericho's bat. So Orange Cassidy was busted open. And Jericho was then shown he had the bag of the blood oranges. And he ended up smacking Orange Cassidy with that bag of blood oranges. So Jericho was then taunting Orange Cassidy a little bit, and it just made Cassidy bleed even more. So then we had Jericho end up hitting Cassidy again with the bag of oranges, which I found funny. I found this whole thing funny, with Jericho just having that bag of oranges and just smacking it at Orange Cassidy. So then he got on the mic, Jericho. So, but all in all, this is gonna progress their match. Possibly gonna be happening at Fyter Fest. So it'll possibly be Jericho versus Orange Cassidy. So we'll see how that match goes. There you go. Little build for their match. Then we had Tony Schiavone. He went to talk with Billy Gunn, but then he got interrupted by MJF. MJF ended up saying that he's been undefeated and is ranked number 1. He ended up saying, Jungle Boy ends up getting a title shot before him. And he ends up saying that in the back, all he gets is dirty looks. And he ends up saying that he feels there is favoritism in AEW. MJF ended up saying that he's a shark among minnows. So Billy Gunn ends up saying that he's a great white shark if MJF wants a shot. So MJF ends up telling Billy Gunn that he is too busy getting another of these scumbag sons in AEW. So then we see Billy Gunn ends up grabbing MJF, and MJF ends up hollering for Wardlow. He was like, Wardlow, help me, Wardlow. So Wardlow, gets in the middle of everything. So we had MJF ends up backing away. So that was basically that. So possibly going to see Billy Gunn versus MJF next. So I know they're gonna make that happen, that match happen. And it's good seeing that MJF is, has been undefeated. So that's, really good. He's one of the best heels in pro wrestling. But every time MJF is on, you gotta listen to what he says. The guy is great. Does his job great as a heel. And then we had Sammy Guevara versus Colt Cabana. This was a good match between the both of them. So the match started off with Cabana locking in a side headlock to Sammy Guevara. And we had Guevara sending Colt Cabana out of the ring. Guevara ended up hitting a big flip out to the floor on Cabana. We went back to the ring. Guevara ended up continuing to work over Cabana. And you had Guevara end up hitting a boot to Cabana. Cabana ended up doing the same thing, followed up with some punches and an elbow strike to Guevara. At the end of the match, Guevara ended up winning the match. He ended up hitting the GTH. So there you go. Sammy Guevara ended up winning the match. So another match that Colt Cabana loses with one of the members of the Inner Circle. So post-match, Evil Uno and Stu Grayson end up making their way out. They make their return, and both of them were away for a couple of months. Of course, probably due to coronavirus, due to COVID, and we had the rest of the Dark Order come out, including the Exalted One, Brody Lee. So Cabana was looking on as Brody Lee ended up coming up to him. Brody Lee ended up extending his hand out to help Colt Cabana. And Brody Lee ended up walking away, ended up heading to the back. And Cabana was looking there all confused, like, what just happened? So there you go. That was what happened. So I guess the Dark Order really wants Colt Cabana to join them. So that's what it's basically looking like. So then Guevara ended up getting on the mic, and he was going to talk, but he got interrupted by Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy ended up coming out. Matt Hardy ended up telling Guevara that he respects him, and that Guevara is like a young Matt Hardy. Matt Hardy then ended up telling Sammy Guevara that if he wants to reach his true potential, Sammy Guevara has to get away from Jericho. And Guevara ended up saying that, he doesn't want to hear from Matt Hardy. I almost said Jericho there. Sorry guys, a little out of it. But Guevara ended up saying that he didn't want to hear from Matt Hardy. So Matt Hardy ends up changing, and he does the Matt facts because he started changing personalities. And Guevara ends up insulting Matt Hardy more, and then he brought out broken Matt Hardy. So Matt Hardy ended up getting much more aggressive towards Guevara, and he ends up saying that he's going to delete Sammy Guevara. So Matt Hardy ends up doing the delete. So, but really loving Matt Hardy and his, different personalities, his change of personalities. He first becomes, version 1, and then Broken Matt Hardy. Having all these change of personalities. I think AEW is handling Matt Hardy a whole lot better than the last few months of Matt Hardy's WWE career, which he was basically buried. But props to AEW for doing Matt Hardy right here and having him change personalities. And then we had Joey Janela. Joey Janela was shown at a bar, ends up saying that he came to AEW to become a star. He ends up saying that he wondered what happened after he got his big match with Moxley. He ends up saying that, since then he has faded into darkness. Janela ended up saying that he sometimes thinks his best moments in wrestling are behind him. So then we saw Janela walking the streets. Sonny Kiss ends up pulling up in his car. Sonny Kiss ends up telling Janela to get in the car. And we see Janela, gets in the car. So both him and Sonny Kiss, go for a ride in the car, and it ends up saying to be continued. So this is gonna, I guess, continue next week on Dynamite. But thought this was, pretty decent. I mean, Sonny Kiss should be used on Dynamite, have a match on Dynamite. I know, he has his matches on Dark. I got to see Sonny Kiss wrestle when, he was in the Indies. Very talented, fun guy in the ring. So hopefully Dynamite, uses him, more. Even though, he's been competing on Dark in a few matches. But get Sonny Kiss on Dynamite. Let him have a one-on-one match with someone. Just let's see him on TV. So then we had Dasha. She was backstage. She tries to get a word with Colt Cabana about his losing streak. And Colt Cabana then headed into Brody Lee's room, or the Dark Order locker room, because it had Brody Lee's name on the door. So, will it be Colt Cabana join the Dark Order? Right there. Maybe I think so. And then we had Alex Marvez. Alex Marvez was interviewing Jon Moxley. Moxley was arriving to the Daily's place. Moxley ended up saying that he is in a bad mood. Not just because he hurts all over, but Taz has been running his mouth all week about Brian Cage beating him at Fyter Fest. Moxley ends up saying that he can't wait to get to that show so he can pop Cage's head off. Moxley ends up saying that it pisses him that Cage or Taz thinks that Cage could beat him. And Taz ends up walking up and he starts shouting at Moxley, saying all he hears is Moxley chirping and that he needs to get his head right for the match. So Cage comes from behind, drops Moxley, and of course it was his distraction from Taz. And sorry about that, but I was saying, Taz ended up distracting Moxley, and that's when Cage came from behind, and he ended up attacking Moxley. And we had Moxley end up grabbing a pipe. And he swings the pipe at Cage. He ends up missing. Moxley ends up hitting the car window. So Cage then ends up lifting Moxley, delivers a spine buster to Moxley on the hood of a car. So Cage looks like he was looking to hit the drill claw. Taz ended up stopping Cage from doing that. So then Cage ended up deciding to deliver a power slam to Moxley. So he ended up doing that. He delivered the power slam to Moxley on the back of the car windshield. It was the same car that that Cage ended up lifting Moxley on. So then we had Taz and Cage end up walking off, and Moxley ended up looking to be in pain because the windshield, of course, when Cage laid that power slam to Moxley, it broke the windshield. And that was that. More build for the match at Fyter Fest, which looking forward to. Moxley and Cage. So that's going to be an entertaining match at Fyter Fest. And then we had the main event. The TNT Championship was on the line. Cody versus MARQ QUEN of Private Party. One half of Private Party. And this was a great match. This was a very good match between the both of them. MARQ QUEN did absolutely great here. And you had the match start off. Cody ended up delivering a handshake to Quen. Cody ended up bringing Quen down. He was working over his arm and neck. And it was back and forth between the both of them. Cody was working over MARQ QUEN's ankle. Quen ended up trying to go for a springboard, and he ended up falling because of his ankle. Cody ended up walking into a kick to the head from MARQ QUEN, and you had Cody end up putting Quen on the top rope, and he ends up hitting a reverse suplex, which looked cool. Cody went to look for a uppercut to MARQ QUEN, but Quen ended up hitting a standing moonsault and got a 2 count, which Cody ended up kicking out of. And at the end of the match, you had Cody win the match because Cody ended up locking in the ankle lock to MARQ QUEN. And so MARQ QUEN ended up tapping out. So Cody wins and still retains the TNT Championship. But Cody is making the TNT Championship, the most looked at title in AEW. It's the most important title to look forward to. So Cody's bringing prestige to this title, which is good, which is awesome. But Cody ends up winning the match. Post-match, you had Cody hugging MARQ QUEN. They shake hands, and Quen ends up limping out of the ring. He also shakes Arn Anderson's hand. And then we see Jake Hager comes out. He stares at Cody. Hager ends up making his way to the ring. He starts choking Arn Anderson. And we see he then launches Cody across the ring. Hits a spine buster on Cody. So then Private Party, MARQ QUEN, Isaiah Cassidy, and Matt Hardy end up heading to the ring. Private Party, MARQ QUEN, and Isaiah Cassidy have chairs on them. They end up whacking Hager. They toss the chairs at him. Matt Hardy ends up clotheslining Hager out of the ring. And so the rest of the Inner Circle come out. We have a brawl ensue. Referees come from the back to try to break it up. So the Inner Circle end up retreating out of the ring. Cody ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up asking Hager if he wants a shot at the TNT Championship at Fyter Fest. So Hager ends up nodding, and he ends up saying, "You got it." So, Cody ended up saying, "You got it." So I got my notes all mixed up here. Sorry, guys. But Cody ended up saying, "You got it." And so he ends up holding up the TNT Championship. And then Dynamite went off the air tonight. So there you go. We have Cody versus Jake Hager for the TNT Championship at Fyter Fest. So that's going to be a really decent match to look forward to. Might be, a good match, between Cody and Hager. So we'll just have to wait and see. So that was Dynamite tonight. Very good show tonight. Very enjoyable show as we head and build towards Fyter Fest. So there you go. So anyways, that's it for the Dynamite review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. And I'll definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe. And I will see you all Friday for the SmackDown review. So until then, I'll see you all later.